The trailers for Annihilation, I remember, is like a full bait and switch. I think I definitely thought it was like women-led action movie where they go into the forest and kill sci-fi monsters, and
that's what I thought. That's what I thought it would be.
Not what that movie is.
That's not what it is.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. Today, we will, of course, be diving headfirst into the NBA playoffs. Cory,
Okay, let's talk about it.
what are your thoughts on Game 2 of Lakers-Denver?
I don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a shit about the Lakers-Denver. I will say this, Joel Embiid's a dirty fucking player, though. I'll fucking say that on this podcast.
I was a big fan of that, to be honest with you.
Fuck you. That was
really
dirty
enjoyed
as shit. Dirty as fuck, man.
And then he got up and he dropped 50 on him.
Fuck yeah, walked his ass to the line the entire fucking time. What was it, like 23 points from the free throw? It's fucking insane.
I'm a big Joel Embiid fan, so I enjoyed it.
This podcast is off to a horrible start. Jesus.
You've really been indoctrinated by New York.
I have been indoctrinated. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
To be fair,
it tastes like it tastes like mac and cheese. What do you say?
I like the Knicks as well, but I would say probably Joel Embiid is my favorite player in the East. So I would love to see him.
That's disgusting.
What is there not to like about Joel Embiid?
We just talked about right like 30 seconds ago.
But you act like the Knicks aren't full of like dirty players and everyone. It's the thing. It's the sports fan conundrum. When they're on your team, you love them, and then they're not on your team. Like every team that Patrick Beverley, who is a scumbag, has been on, the fans love him when they're on this team because he makes other teams really angry. And then he's never
been on a team I've supported, so that's okay. I can still hate.
Yeah, he's the only team he hasn't played for is the one.
When he grabbed his legs and he got hurt, I legitimately got angry at it.
I know.
Like I was legitimately
There was so
angry.
many think pieces flying around the internet. I don't know. I don't think he was. I'm only bothered when I think players are trying to hurt other players.
Yeah, but you can't.
No, you don't. It was.
That's some childish shit right there.
For sure.
It's just too damn. He's our age and throwing a damn temper tantrum to him.
But he was also like, I don't know. I'm usually a fan of giving athletes benefit of the doubt when they're in like the heat.
Yeah. He also kneed a guy in the nuts too, really shortly after. So the guy was having a bit of an afternoon, Che.
Yeah. Then he dropped 50.
But let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. Today we will be talking about a number of things, none of which include the probably inevitable Celtics-Denver matchup again. I said again, but this will be the first time.
It's the most boring. It's the most boring outcome.
Yeah. We'll actually be talking about a number of good movies and good TV shows, including Monkey Man, the Dev Patel directorial debut, The Sympathizer on HBO, Shogun's conclusion, and of course, Alex Garland's most recent feature-length film, Civil War. We will be talking about in the next coming weeks, don't forget, the 1999 Godzilla movie for our Curse the Rewatch, which is not good. You don't need to watch it. But announcing, after we did our Damn Them All book club for last week, which was a great book by Simon Spurrier you should go check out, coming sometime in the next few weeks. We never really announce these things exactly because... Let's be honest. We don't have the schedule to do that. But we're gonna be doing From Hell by Alan Moore, the classic gothic horror. Actually, I didn't really think about it, but we're doing two sort of. This one's not really all that fun in the same way. Fun is not the right word. This book is really good. I love this book. Cory, you said you've never read it before, so I'm excited.
Never read it. No,
I'm excited to talk about it. It is similar to Damn Them All, but also very, very different. So it should be a good time.
Very British and having like a lot to do with demonology and shit like that.
No.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
It's about a serial killer.
I was trying to grasp on straws without having really any idea what the book is.
I mean, From Hell, it does make it sound like it's about demons, but it's about.
I'm less excited now, but continue.
It's I remember which I should hold on. I should probably know this off the top of my head. Who it's about? Yeah, all right. It's about Jack the Ripper. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know that showed.
I knew it was some famous serial killer. I probably should have remembered that it was Jack the Ripper. But yeah, it'll be a good time. We're gonna jump into it because, like I said, we got a number of things to talk about today. So we're gonna skip over elevator pitch because both of us agreed that our elevator pitch would have been Tortured Poet Society. So we're just gonna go straight into the meat of the
That's
episode.
true. I loved being cut off by 2 billboard trucks last weekend. I couldn't go anywhere for 30 minutes.
It's I'm fascinated by the vice grip that Taylor Swift has on humanity. I was at the Trevor Noah show last night, which was quite funny. He was coming to your town, and you got like $200. The tickets were exorbitant, but if you got the money, you should go see it. It was very funny. At the end, he took questions.
The guy got to make up his money after just like tanking his career post Dua Lipa.
What?
That's why the rumor is that he quit the show because he started dating Dua Lipa. Like in a week later, that's when he canceled the show, or that's when he quit the show.
Oh.
And then she broke up with him a week after that.
I did not know he was dating Dua Lipa.
It was. I don't think she fully said they were dating either. So
there's a bit in the show when he's talking about failure to communicate with his ex-girlfriend about sex. I wonder if that's Dua Lipa. But he at the end of the show he took questions, which I do not recommend if you're a stand-up comedian to take questions from.
I think they all do it though.
I've never seen that before. Okay,
it's like honestly Gerard Carmichael and like his like recent like I guess like
it's like this new style of.
And I don't understand it because like a lot of people, everyone who wants to speak at a comedian to me are the scum of the earth.
Yes, well, this is my point. Is that the first question was a white girl in the front row who, when offered the opportunity to ask Trevor Noah any question that she wanted, asked, "What do you think of Taylor Swift's new album?" Jesus Christ. But monkey man.
Same energy. I'm almost done with this. And I saw Gerard Carmichael stand up. This one woman was like, because he was talking about like sponsoring his family's like and paying for their groceries, even though his family's kind of like shitty towards him because he came out and also other stuff like that. And one woman was like, "Why don't you cut him off?" And he's just like, "You truly don't get it, do you? You don't understand the entirety of what I was just complaining about, right?"
Yeah. It's
disconnection for certain people.
That's the thing is when you get.
I feel like it probably was the same type of woman who asked, "What did you think of Taylor Swift album?" It's the same energy as that.
Yeah, when you get 1,000 people in a room or even more, you're going to get, even if it's not most of the room, you're going to get a number of people who are so self-absorbed they didn't really listen to anything that you said and like haven't really processed any of the message. Like all of Gerard Carmichael's persona and comedy and everything is about how like he's got this real close connection with his family, despite the fact that they have probably don't accept him for everything that he is, and then to fundamentally understand everything he's done for his entire career is real I shout out at comedy shows type energy. I agree with you.
I think it's like the most ludicrous thing to open up the forum to let people do that. I'm like, no, don't. I didn't come here for you.
Yeah.
It's not a collaborative. This isn't collaborative storytelling. Yeah. I didn't go to improv tonight by choice.
I guess it's like it's a high risk, high reward type situation where like
it was a
really good question that can be fantastic entertainment, but most shows you will not get good questions. I will say at the show I was at in DC, nobody asked a good question. So.
That's fair. I'm just worried we're skewing towards black folks in a horror movie. That's kind of what I'm worried about as like a culture when it comes to comedy. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's like just kind of a cultural, like a wide comedy thing. And I'm just worried that we're heading in that direction when it comes to live shows.
What do you mean by that?
People talking at the screen.
Oh, yeah. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the size of the room, that there was not a ton of heckling. There was a couple, but yeah, I don't understand the inclination to be.
People need to be the main characters.
I know, I guess I'm just not like the kind of. I say this is. We say this is 2 30-year-old men with podcasts right now, but like, I don't have the inclination to be the center of attention in a room full of people. I've never.
Yeah, because there's 2 of us.
It's because I haven't figured out how to kick you off this yet.
That's true.
It's time to talk about Dev Patel's absolutely, I would say, surprising directorial debut. Is that fair?
I think that's fair.
Did you think this was the kind of movie he would have made for his first movie?
No, I wouldn't. I would not take this swing as a first time director. I feel like for most times you want to kind of do like a normal like drama where it's like not doesn't seem terribly difficult. This movie looked hard as hell to make.
Very difficult to shoot.
And it was fucking great. Like I mean, like not even as like a first time director. I thought as an action movie itself, it was a very solid action movie and an incredible directorial debut for like I don't really think like had there been many directorial debuts for action films really? I can't imagine. Not a lot. I'm sorry.
Not outside the John Wick pipeline. Like David Leitch, obviously, his first film is Deadpool.
Yeah, but I mean, like he was a stunt guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you stunt, but like I guess like the thing is, I'm just, and it might be because I'm assigning. I don't know Dev Patel, so to pretend like I do is silly. But I would have thought he would have made I don't know. A drama about like the kind of movies he's acted in. Like this is not only the first action movie that Dev Patel has directed; it's the first action movie that Dev Patel has made.
Yeah.
In his career, he is not. I guess you could say, Hotel Mumbai is kind of an action movie, but it's very different than this. And I think most of that movie is certainly about the horrific drama of the terrorist attack and not so much about the action sequences, which are like very well made, but not in the same way that like Monkey Man is supposed to be invigorating and thrilling. I also say that I forgot. I just Googled his filmography. I completely forgot that Last Airbender existed, but we don't need to talk about that.
What are you talking about?
You're right. What am I talking about? But yeah,
I did forget he was in that movie.
I just forget that movie exists all the time. So.
He was the best thing in that movie. I remember thinking that, and I remember rationalizing that in my brain before I got angry on my car ride home. But yeah,
I say all this to say that I was surprised, but like pleasantly surprised. I really liked this movie.
Yeah, agreed.
I think, Corey, you also said you really like this movie.
No,
as well.
I loved it. I mean, like from the trailer. I mean, I saw the trailer for it, and I'm like, whoa, this looks very good. And then I just saw like as it kept on going with like he's in it, he's also directing it. I'm like, okay, shit.
Yeah.
But I thought, like, I don't think it necessarily did anything revolutionary, really. But I thought it was it's the best job of doing this type of film.
Well, I mentioned John Wick. It's basically John Wick in
India, they lampshaded,
which I loved. I mean, it's not, for sure. There's a fucking dog in the movie.
There's a dog in it. There's even like, hey, like this is a gun John Wick uses. It's like they very clearly know what they know exactly what the tone is of what they're going for.
But I think that. I'm less bothered, maybe because we had the entire decade of the 80s, but I'm less bothered when action movies feel sort of formulaic, because the thing about an action movie is like, yes,
it's a hero's
it would be
journey.
Exciting if they all had, the hero journey, but I would say this would be exciting if they all had this like really groundbreaking plot, but I don't know if you can fit a bunch of punching and kicking and shooting into a groundbreaking plot. And I do think he's doing a lot of stuff that is different in this movie. I would say this movie shot differently than a lot of action movies. I kept thinking the whole time he would like pull the camera back at some moment. I kept thinking that we would get that first man moment where it all widens out, because the whole movie is like, it's set in Mumbai, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's set in a major Indian city.
I think it's Mumbai, but you can keep talking.
And he captures that like claustrophobic nature of big city India, which are like these cities packed full of people, but every camera shot is just up close and like really chaotic. It's constantly moving around. And there's that scene where he early in the movie where the pickpocket steals the business card from the woman he's eventually going to go work for, and you get that scene where it's like being like passed hand through hand throughout the city of Mumbai. I love that sequence, but the whole time is the camera's like dead close up on everyone's face and shifting through like legs, and I think he really does a good job of
it feels chaotic.
Yeah,
and it feels crowded.
Yeah, crampedness.
Very, and I mean, I think like all of the fight scenes like do feel very small. It's all very narrow fight scenes. Like it's either a hallway, like a small club, really, or like, I mean, a boxing ring, obviously, as well. But everything feels so. Even the chase sequences feel very claustrophobic in a sense. Yeah. But I forget I was talking to, but like kind of talking about like mystery novels and like things like that, where it's like you don't necessarily break new ground with a lot of these things. But what you do is use a very interesting setting and characters to make it different. And I feel like what the best thing about Monkey Man is it takes a very similar like action movie dynamic. You have a guy who's just straight up looking for revenge. Right, that's the movie. But you set it in India. And you have a character that you usually don't get. And then you have their training montage. And one of the most interesting there's just like interesting choice to do it. Because like who would think about making your training montage centered around that? Yeah. And I think it's like all these fun choices.
That drum sequence in the temple is so sick. I still don't. I will say, I don't understand what was happening necessarily. Can I explain to you why he was training in this temple full of trans women that had been like excised from society? No, necessarily. I don't think the movie does a great job of explaining that, but I don't really care. It's like you're saying.
Exactly.
You could just do like it. I mean, you mentioned mysteries, like whodunits. I think the prime example of this sort of thing is the rom-com. Every rom-com is kind of the exact same movie, but the way you make a good rom-com is get good actors, good directors, and good writers. And I think this movie is directed really well. Dev Patel, obviously like a really great actor. We knew that already. And the action set pieces and the stunt coordination is great. I mean, the final action sequence is really cool. I think
that I thought it did a great job of building up to that. I was even going to say like the chase sequence too, where and I think it does a good job with chasing.
The scooter, the Nas scooter.
Yes, the Nas. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about chase sequence where you're like, I genuinely do not know how you're going to get out of this. Yeah. And he should be very dead. But of course, it's fine if he's not very dead. But like, because we accept that kind of shit. Because I mean, he definitely should be infected by various diseases by being in that water with open wounds. But
I mean, he takes like a sniper rifle shot to the chest and falls.
That's what I'm saying.
In the river, he's definitely dead. Like I would say, he's dead before he hits the water, and then if
absolutely,
he's
it's a Skyfall thing too. It's like no, James Bond should be dead. Like it's just been a fever dream after he like gets shot in the chest. That's exactly what happens after Skyfall. But that's a fantastic movie. But yeah, no, I think I just think the film did something different. I think everything about the film was just like interesting choice after interesting choice, and none of it felt like it didn't feel boring. It didn't really feel like easy. And I think that's something like a lot of directorial debuts. Like I feel like they kind of play in their wheelhouse, but Dev Patel is like, no, I want to do an action movie. I want to do this action movie. And I mean, I read on the Wikipedia page that he offered and he tried to get what the hell is his name? Neil Blomkamp to do the directing for it, but Blomkamp was like, you should just try to do it yourself. So it's not like he went into being like, I want this to be my movie. He was like more of like, I wrote something cool, and then taking this thing that he wrote that was really cool, and then just applying and going for it full send really worked out for him.
Yeah,
and that's how he got Sharlto Copley.
Yeah, I think it's a great story that this. I mean, to be honest, this guy that I don't think 10 years ago would have got to make a movie. People that look like Patel. I don't think 10 years ago he's getting the same reactions. Listen, I went to a very horny screening because as soon as he took his shirt off, it was a lot. It was a lot of just whooping. Like it was a lot of that. That was a handsome gentleman. I'm not gonna.
I would listen. Good for this guy, man. Listen. The drum sequence is fucking phenomenal.
I also think it's really cool that other than you mentioned Sharlto Copley, who obviously most people will know probably most famously from District 9 and
the Free Fire and the A-Team.
Yeah, what was that movie with Matt Damon where they cured all diseases?
Elysium. I was laughing at for my homeland of Africa, and I'm like. It's like you're not wrong, but shut the fuck up.
Has he ever not played? I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy.
His accent, I think his accent
is scumbag though. I don't think he has.
But I don't think he. I mean, I don't count the A-Team because that movie feels like a fever dream as well. But I don't think.
I do not remember his.
Yeah, he's in the. I'm pretty positive he's in the A-Team. I think he's the.
I don't know. I believe you. I just don't remember him being in the A-Team because I don't remember that movie at all.
Why does my brain work that way? Honestly,
I remember Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper, and Quentin Jackson.
Yeah. He plays Murdoch, I think.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so guys, I'm sorry. He's in the A-Team. He's one of the A-Team people. But I'm just my brain is sincerely broken that I can pull out the A-Team. And I forgot that Liam Neeson was in that movie.
Yeah. But my
like
point is,
that movie.
other than him, it's basically a cast of actors who Americans wouldn't really be familiar with, which I also think is really cool. It's just an introduction to a lot of people of, I think, a lot of really well-known Indian actors, which is ironic might not be the right word, but I can't think of a better one. It's ironic that this movie's not been shown in India, at least in theaters. I'm not really sure what the streaming situation is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean, even Netflix was like, I was reading a bit more on the trivia, whereas like Netflix was kind of hesitant on the film itself and streaming in India because a lot of the themes that it does like tackle might be a bit taboo to be shown over there.
It's a scathing indictment of the caste system, which is still alive and well in India.
Anti that religious sect that like kind of seems like that has like a lot of political power there. I mean, I'm not super familiar with the going ons in India, but also
not to pretend to be a political.
Sorry. So I don't know, but apparently there are like it's reading on later on. Apparently a lot of things they discussed, or like at least like the bad guy set up in the political commentary, which. I mean, there wasn't a lot in it, but there was still enough to be a bit poignant about the whole thing.
I actually think there's a lot in the subtext of the movie. There's not a lot of text, but like I mean, just a few off the top of my head that he touches on. We talked about the caste system, of course, the inherent transphobia that is rampant throughout all society. I mean, we're not free of it in America either. The corruption in Indian politics, which I've heard a ton of, is basically like Indian politics is like almost you need to bribe everybody to get shit done. It's almost out in the open. That's a big part of this. The police are basically the big bads of the movie. They're mob bosses essentially.
They wiped out a fucking town. Yeah. It's fucking
I think this movie is. I mean, I am not surprised that Dev Patel, after seeing the movie, seeing all the stuff that it was touching on, this is the passion project he wanted to write and star in. I know, like you said, it wasn't his intention to originally direct it, but I'm not surprised that this sort of stuff is what he was interested in. I am still a little bit surprised at the package it came in. I loved it, but I think this movie, if you haven't seen it already, I would say go watch Monkey Man just because it's a ton of fun. But also, I think this movie has a lot of, if you're not a big Bollywood movie fan generally, I think this movie has a lot of interesting insight into the Indian culture. That
also it's just a badass, just a kick-ass film. So. Yeah. Movie, we need more of these, and I'm worried about a film that probably I will have seen before our next recording. But it does seem like I want more of this, and I hope it's good. And I have a feeling that I'm talking about Boy Kills World, and I feel like that's not going to be good.
I have mixed feelings on it because
if it's as camp as I think it should be, I think it'll be good in the sense of a enjoyable film. There's no world that this is going to be a good film.
What was that Gillian Karen Gillian movie?
Something Milkshake.
Yeah, Gunpowder Milkshake.
Yes. Why did fuck?
If it's a Gunpowder Milkshake vibe, I'm all for it. Like that movie's not a great movie, but I had a ton of fun watching it.
Yeah, that had a really good vibe to it. I hope that director does something. That was a really fun vibe to that movie. Not the best movie, but I thought it was a fun vibe.
Navat Papuchado was the director of Gunpowder Milkshake, who had a movie last year. I did not see this movie. It is called Lobo Feroz, which I think means ferocious wolf. Not great reviews, I will say. You can watch it on the streaming platform VIX, apparently, which I have never heard of. So it's not a great sign.
But I think before the next one, I mean, listen, it's one of those things like I like B movies, and I'm happy to see that a B movie is still getting like theater releases, which is still nuts to me. But
I think calling this a B, I mean, I'm not saying you're blending it.
Not Monkey Man, not Monkey Man, not Monkey Man.
Boy,
Monkey Man is still like a good movie. I just feel like that kind of like that cheese is like kind of hard to get away with.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm surprised that in the age of streaming that Boy Kills World is getting a theatrical release. I will be like you in the theaters watching
action movies are so much better in the theater. I mean, all movies are better in theaters, but
it's true.
I would not have enjoyed Monkey Man as much at home. I still would have, but I think it's just like, the loudness of it. We'll get to another film. I feel like you should see it in theaters if it's possible because
if you're watching Civil War in your house, we're more.
Yeah, you're just. It's like Dunkirk. It's like Dunkirk where you missed out on the sound.
Well,
of it,
this is we talked about this in relation to Dune. Like I understand if you don't want to go to theaters, it's too the cost prohibitive or time prohibitive or whatever. But I just I'm not interested in your opinion on the movie. If you watch Dune at home on your laptop, I don't care if you liked it or not. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Yeah.
If you watched Monkey Man at home on your laptop and you're like that movie was boring, okay.
Yeah, you're wrong, but it's okay, I guess.
Anything else to say about Monkey Man before we move on?
No, just go give it a watch. I think it's on streaming somewhere, or at least you can rent it. But I highly recommend it, guys. It's a really, really good time.
Hardcore agree. All right, next up, we're talking about the first 2 episodes of The Sympathizer.
Yes.
One of our
just started the
most
book.
Anticipated shows. How you liking it? I really love that book.
I've only read the first 2 chapters of it. They're long chapters, guys. I can still read. But it's so far. I mean, they got this. I think they got the tone of it pretty well down in the TV show. But it's a fun book to read. It's it's wild. I've read a book that's this is just a very fun narrator to follow along with.
When we talked about it in the in our most anticipated episode for when we were talking about stuff we were most anticipated for this year, and we talked about the show, I mentioned that the book is or the show is classified as a dark comedy, and I didn't agree about that with the book, but I went back to revisit a bit of the book, and I would still not call it a dark comedy, but it is more, like you said, it's more fun than you would think a book.
Oh, I thought it was at least it's at least a comedy, right? Are you thinking there's no comedy? Che, this book's pretty fucking funny. Everything feels very tongue in cheek, but his descriptives of everybody, and none of it feels serious. Really.
I think when I came out of the book the first time I read it, being it's very irreverent, which is maybe just me going. I guess that is a comedy in a way.
That is comedy. Yeah,
but I think about when I think about
comedy,
I think about Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. I think about Good Omens, and I think maybe that's not different. Fair. Yeah,
that's not fair. Right. That's not fair. That's literature humor. This guy definitely feels a bit more reading. I don't know if you read about this kind of the whole weird way this got made in a sense where the writer of the book was inspired by Old Boy.
The show, not
the book. The book was the guy. He's I inspired by writing by Old Boy. The Old Boy director saw that article, and then the Old Boy director's maybe we should make this as a TV show. And now we kind of
So
joined Robert Downey Jr. involved, and there you go.
Park Chan-wook is the director of Old Boy and also the director of I think all the episodes of this show, at least the first 2 that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think at least the first 2.
Probably up until Parasite's big win at the Oscars, was probably the most famous Korean director, at least in America. He recently did one of my favorite movies out of Korea in the past few years, Decision to Leave, which I also really loved. If you haven't seen that, it's quite a different vibe from The Sympathizer, but also equally well made. Let's talk about the show. Corey, what did you think of these first 2 episodes of The Sympathizer? Which again, for people who haven't seen it, sorry, it's available on HBO, coming out Sundays. We're 2 episodes in. I'm not sure. I think it's a 6 episode miniseries is the plan. 7 episode miniseries, which should cover the whole book. So
this really did kind of scratch my itch of fast moving, smart talking, like TV/film. When Guy Ritchie's doing it perfectly, that kind of vibe where everything just feels very. It's I know, but I'm trying to think of a better version of it.
I agree with you. I'm just laughing because I'm fully prepared right now to hot swap this episode's topic and just talk about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare for the next.
You want to talk about it? You want to talk about fucking Alan Richardson?
It was lit, dog.
Alan Richardson's insane accent.
Just,
it was all of
Alan
it.
Richardson playing a giant gay Swedish.
We can talk about this. We can talk about that in a second.
Sorry.
But no, it felt very. Tarantino might be the better, a more apt aspect to it though. But it was just constantly moving, time changing, very fun stylistically. Everyone's acting in appropriate but a bit bombastic way. Everyone feels a bit like a cartoon character. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is basically a cartoon character in this show in the first 2 episodes. But I'm super engaged as reading the book. I think reading the book is one of those things where I kind of want to catch up on the book. Because I've noticed, and I feel like I've left out some details from it that I kind of wish I knew a bit more, and I did feel like it probably would have bogged things down, but I think a lot of the nuances that I feel like I picked up in these first 2 chapters are a bit missing really from it. I think like some of the more dramatic notes hit a bit harder in the book than the TV show itself.
Yeah.
But I think
TV show
as
seems
like
mostly at least at the beginning of his first 2 episodes, mostly focused on the captain's experience, while the book expands a lot on the political, like what is going on in Vietnam before and after the war.
Yeah,
and
I mean, like it definitely does treat Vietnam like you're supposed to know it already.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, and I admittedly I'm not a big war historian, surprisingly. So I feel like I should go watch like the Ken Burns documentary or something to have a better idea of what's happening. But I do feel like the book's a bit more like explainer to kind of give me a bit more of context on why I should feel the way I should feel.
Yeah.
Because I think also it's a really interesting way to look at it, because they don't really go into like what like the war really was about, and like should we like kind of like be rooting for this guy more than like his like in his like spy mission. I mean, it's very easy on paper to be like, yeah, no, the CIA is horrible, America sucks, so I'm kind of like rooting for you in one place, but I don't necessarily know enough about it as a subject to be like, am I like, how much on your team should I be?
Well, I think that's the thing about,
is he supposed to be like morally gray? Obviously, like the way that the story's presented. Yeah.
In the book generally is that it's not he's not super interested in the sides of the Vietnam War, like North and South, communist versus capitalist, all that stuff. I think that moment in the first episode where the soldiers interrupt the woman singing and tell her like, stop this, I can't
sad shit.
They tell her to stop this something song, like whatever it is, and
it's like it's like sad.
It's an anti-war song. It's about. I think this book and this show is anti-war in general, and that's why this character is like, we see him. I think that's why his perspective is really interesting, because he is obviously somebody who's au fait with like both sides of the world. As somebody who was a spy for Southern Vietnam.
He's a spy for Northern Vietnam.
Spy for Northern Vietnam in the Southern Vietnam infrastructure. And then we see him go to America, where he is now basically in, like, what's the word? Embedded in with the enemy. Yeah. Like literally this country that just came and destroyed his homeland. He has to fly over there and play nice with all of these. I mean, that's why we talked about it when we previewed the show. We talked about it in the episode, how Robert Downey Jr. basically signing up to play all of the worst white people you've ever seen. I really thought Claude, who's the CIA agent, was going to be the peak. And then we get, I think I forgot how shit Professor Hammer is. That guy, the scene where he's like, talks about Sandra Oh's neck.
Yeah, that was like, when he like pulls her,
jump out of the window.
Fucking nuts. just it's so bad. I mean, also it's like clear, the book also has a lot to do with just kind of being like biracial in America as a general statement. It's also, I mean, like being a foreigner in America as well, but just kind of like
the Asian American experience generally too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I mean, like there's like a lot of like, there's a lot of that too. And I mean, you're right. I think like the conversations that he wants to have is right, anti-war, but also just kind of like how it is being in America as somebody who's not white. And I mean, the fetishization of those kind of, I mean, the fucking, it's like, you know, it's when we see like a man, like, I feel like we see in other movies though, where it's like a man's like the leader of the women's study branch of a college. Yeah. It's like the same vibe as that, but worse, because it's like, you know, it's like
the Oriental Studies Department.
Yeah, or like just the name.
Says that.
It's like, as soon as he like opened up his office, and I'm like, oh fucking god, it is the sliding door in the kimono, and I'm like, oh my god,
he's a full clown. I am 100% agree with that, but I kind of liked The Office. I thought it was like,
it's a nice office. Like it's a nice office, but you could sit in that office and be like a normal man and be like, this is a fun vibe.
I would that guy around with a kimono telling Asian people how to be more Asian. No, I think this show, much like Monkey Man, is tapping in on a lot of intricacies of the political spectrum and experience of Vietnamese Americans and Asian Americans generally. And my one complaint about the show so far is I just wish I thought the first episode was incredible. I really liked the second episode, but I thought the first episode was by far the best one so far. And I think,
between the two of them, absolutely.
I think a lot of that is because I think the most interesting part of this show has been Vietnam, and I kind of wish we'd spent more time at Vietnam before. Although that sequence of getting on the plane was like gut wrenching,
hard,
really well done.
Hard.
I mean, that is Park Chan-wook at his best, I think.
I just love that scene too because it felt so. I think that's like the fun thing about this movie, like this TV show, is because it feels like it feels fake. It does feel like someone like remembering something, where everything in it feels like a bit over the top. Like as he's describing this thing
in the book and the show, this is him.
But like the runway was so fucking long. It just it just feels so much like someone remembering something and making it so dramatic and over the top. And I do love that for like a style thing though, because you can like kind of like everything that he's saying is the way that we're perceiving it. This isn't like real life necessarily. It's him remembering a story,
right? And I think that's your point about the characters too. The ones that Robert Downey Jr. is playing is like they're probably not in quote unquote real life in the real experience of this. They were probably not this buffoonishly evil, but his memory has exaggerated a lot of stuff, including not just his like these white people coming through his life, but also like his relationship with Sandra Oh is like almost fairy tale-esque. They have sex like once, and they're telling each other they're falling in love in his bed with his catatonic roommate. And I think
I do think they said they've been doing it for like a month or like they said they do say like we've been doing this.
It's fast.
I mean, honestly, like I'm not a prude. I just don't need to see people fucking on television for too long. It's like, what are we doing here? But
I've been very much
also
saying I think we should bring sex back into movies and TV.
I mean, it didn't. I thought in the scene it does work because I think in general I love a good talk to the camera as a narrator thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's not excessive and annoying, and I do think also this guy's voice is perfect for this, and I think
although we haven't said his name yet, but how Schwande, who I think I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, plays the captain. I've never seen him before. He's been fantastic so far. My one complaint is the contacts are traumatizing.
They are.
It's so hard to look at for
in
me.
the book. I don't remember if they even say his eye color, honitly, but
I think they must, right? Because I also couldn't remember him having green eyes. But why would you do this if it wasn't?
Yeah, it's like, and I think honestly, like he does look biracial without the contacts. But yeah, I mean, I think they do bother me. But I think I'm okay to look past it.
It's not ruining his performance for me. Like I said, I think he's fantastic in this show, and I'm always excited to find like new actors. Like every time we get a fresh face, that's really fun.
It's also so smart to bring someone who's not American to do this role, just because they can do the "I'm a fake American" voice. And I think that's such a.
He was an American. His accent is incredible.
But his accent's incredible.
Australian is wild to me.
But it also feels so like somebody doing like an. It feels like it feels. That's why it feels so alien in a way. Like, this guy sounds American. He learned how to do an American accent, but like. Where in America would that accent be from?
Yeah.
It just feels like instead of doing the whole like cowboy shit, it's just like I'm an American. Yes, it's like sorry to bother you. Basically, it's like that kind of voice, but like it almost feels insane that it's coming out of his body at some points. But the guy's got a very like fun like James Bond. I mean, as we said before, like it's from his memory, so who knows if he actually was this suave or
that's why I like
cool all the time.
I liked the structure, the format of it the delivery mechanism of the story in the book and the show. I think the unreliable narrator is actually really vital to the way the story works.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think he is playing the sort of like on the edge of good and evil and sort of like towing both lines really perfectly in this show. I found his. That's again. I keep going back to like I just wish we spent more time with in Vietnam. That relationship he has with his three friends, and that his friend who again is that his friend? This guy who stayed back in Vietnam and sent him over to America and seems to like not really like him.
It's a very interesting thing to look at it too, because these guys are supposed to be like best friends for life, and you see how much like the character cares so much about. I think his name is Bond, and it's like their relationship is like it's so like I mean obviously he loves the dude. He's like taking care of him. He's like bringing him along with him. Like he's like doing his best to take care of this man who's like going through it.
Yeah,
and
who was essentially like. I mean, we're going to talk about Shogun in a second, but it's like I think Bond would say he wished he had died with his family. Like
exactly
basically praying for death the whole time
and like so he's taking care of this guy so fucking hard, and his friend who you're right doesn't like I mean like I don't know where the book is going really because I'm still behind in comparison to Shogun. I'm like part of me is like is he just gonna get like fucked over by this friend because it feels like very like. I don't know. Don't tell me obviously anything, but it feels like I don't trust this friend because you're right. He doesn't feel like he likes him at all. Like he sent him to America. It just feels like the friend doesn't.
That interaction
feel like...
where he comes out and says to him like I can't wait to walk up to Claude and tell him or to the general and tell him like
I'm not getting on the plane.
Yeah, I'm not getting on the plane because I want to stay here and he like has this love for Vietnam. He's doing all this stuff because he loves Vietnam and the fact that he's been sent to. Where is it? It's like it's not New York. It's like Iowa. Is that where they end up?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Before he ends up in like shit town America, surrounded by racists. I had that scene where he's like, "You guys have any rice starch?" And this guy's like, "No, we have potato starch because this is America." It's like, oh god, here we go again.
But it's like, I mean, I don't know if they touch on the book. I can't remember if this is the book or TV show, so kind of conflating them though. But he's also like, you're right. I do love America. He's like, I like the, and I think that's true though. It's a very interesting like thing, like because I mean, obviously, I think we speak for both of us, so we very much disagree with a lot of what our government does. And
I don't think it's any secret that we're not big fans of America on this podcast.
Exactly, but I like living here, so it's like one of those things. Like I like a lot of the amenities of America. I just don't like a lot of what it is.
What's the word he uses? He says like this morbid fascination, and then his friend replies basically like that's what it means to love America.
I think something like that. Yeah, it's like
I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it's something to that effect where it's like loving America is like sort of being disgusted by it and fascinated by it at the same time.
Exactly.
Unless you love America in like a really sick way, which is like that you think America's perfect, there's nothing wrong with it, and then you have like a disease.
And I think like in a way he's kind of getting. Yeah, I mean in a way though he's like he knows how to navigate it because I mean in that whole speech when he's talking about like when the fucking professor makes him read out an insane like I could not imagine. Clearly this has happened to that character beforehand, so he knew to be prepared for it. But I could not imagine be like, okay, Corey. Tell us what it's like to be black in America in a room like full of white people. And I'm like, oh my god, this would be like my.
I think in a room full of black people, I wouldn't have any idea what the fuck to do.
Absolutely, but it just feels like it's like okay, this is like the most like alien concept, and like how do you navigate it? Also,
we were just talking about not
Sandra was fucking giving out the food there. Like, isn't like that like blew my mind. Like, she's your fucking secretary.
Well, that's why you mentioned the sex scene later. I think the juxtaposition of like. Her having agency over her own sexuality and like clearly that scene is between two Asian people and then juxtaposed with that scene before where it's like literally a circle of white people dressed in kimonos sexualizing this Asian woman against her will. I think that is very intentional. I think this show is very funny and also very dark. Obviously, it's about the Vietnam War. I think it walks those two lines really well.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's like I think it's kind of interesting. At least the second episode where you kind of get this like. You kind of can tell he's like very comfortable being in America again. Like he's like kind of like he's like in the whole point of like what am I even doing anymore? Like the general seems kind of useless now. So like what the fuck are we even doing?
Well, yeah, like
now
to go from leading. I mean that's that scene where he's opening his Yellow Flag liquor store, and he's getting saluted by his ex-soldiers as like he's selling alcohol
liquor
in Nebraska, wherever the fuck they are. Is this?
I think they're in Cali again. I think they're now all in California.
Back in California again? Okay.
Because I think, like, I mean, I don't know. It seemed like his road trips would be fucking ridiculous if he was, like, in, like, because he's living in California.
Yeah, you're right. They ended up in, like, Idaho on a base, but then they
Yeah, they were like,
Southern California.
but the general was there longer than he was because he got out because he got a job.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the show. We talked about this before. I mean, we're gonna talk about Shogun in a second, but I think the explosion of like Asian American storytelling in America is like really lent to, I mean, just talk about fucking Monkey Man. Like, it's just lent to like a bunch of really interesting stuff. I hope it continues. I hope we get more. I mean, it's just more proof that like you get people to tell stories that weren't getting a chance to tell it before. We don't need 3 more versions of Howard's End. I'm telling you this. Although I do like Howard's End, I won't lie. I'm really excited for Sympathizer.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see Robert Downey Jr. play more cartoon characters. Truly, it is a delight every
He's
time
having
he
the
is on
most
screen.
fun, I think.
He's having so much fun. And it's like, I think it's like also such a good way to do it, where Claude is a very Downey Jr. kind of character, where he's like kind of cool, but like also like a bad dude kind of vibe. And then the next one is just like him, just insane.
We haven't met I'm pretty if this character's in the show. I don't think he is. I think I remember seeing that he's playing Robert Downey's playing.
There is a part from the trailer where I think a lot of them are at a table together, I guess. Or maybe that might just be for the trailer. And I don't know if you want to go see that part, it might show you who he's playing. But
I will,
I'm assuming every big white man.
Yeah,
part is
I will
gonna
report
be him.
back if we run into my favorite white man from the book.
I think we've only seen one other white dude, and he was like a young guy being a reporter. So I think that's the only. Like, I'm like, that makes sense.
That scene
like,
was also great though, where he was like, we really marched for you, and then I mean, of course, obviously our experiences as Americans is like the Vietnam War through American media. Although I will say, I've been, especially when this show was announced again, and I was fascinated by it, I've been looking for like Vietnam produced films about the Vietnam War, and there are shockingly few. Like if you go to the, now how complete is this actual list, but the Vietnam War like movie list on Wikipedia, it's mostly American movies, which is weird, and then a lot of documentaries from Europe, but Vietnam doesn't seem to make a ton of like popular culture media about this. I don't know what that is about, but I remember the obviously our experience of going back to what I was talking about, this guy, our experience as Americans through movies and stuff about the Vietnam War is usually told as like the Vietnam War in America was ended through protests, like, and I mean the protests in America, that was a big part of the disruption of. I mean, I'm not belittling protest culture. In 2024, you're not going to hear me complain about students protesting war. That's not happening.
Also, we're going to talk about a movie that has a lot to do with protest and war. So,
but I love that scene where this guy who's clearly like probably well intentioned but a little dim witted is like, we marched for you, and then he's like, who for? Which he's like,
which side?
All of Vietnam. He's like, oh,
interesting.
He's like, I could be Viet Cong. It's a great. It's great.
That guy's a very good at, like, they found a really good actor to kind of play that type of.
I think he's really good. I just looked it up. Apparently, he was in the live action remake of Cowboy Bebop.
Which one of what? Of
Cowboy
what?
Bebop.
We don't talk about that.
I don't. What? He was Lin. I did not.
I don't think I made it that far.
Yeah,
I didn't make it that far. I think I got one episode in for this podcast, and I watched like 10 minutes.
So he's not going to be new to everybody, but he's definitely new to us.
But I think anybody who watched Cowboy Bebop watched this, and I'm like, they probably were like, yeah, no, that's. If you could watch both of those and then be like, that's inferior television, just so hope you have that. But check out the Sympathizer, guys. We didn't really ruin anything, I don't think. So I think very much if you have not given
I don't
a chance
think there's
yet,
a lot to ruin yet.
No, there's no like.
Show. There's no
reveals.
I mean, spoiler: the Vietnam War ends. Saigon falls.
I think that's honestly in the first like 3 minutes of it. It's like 2 weeks before the fall of Saigon.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, I mean, the book's also excellent as well. I'm only 2 chapters into it, but I love the writing style. So if you're looking for a good book to read, I recommend that one. But yeah, check out The Sympathizer.
Yeah.
Che, you want to take a quick break before we continue on with this episode?
Let's do it.
How's your leg?
It hurts a little.
And your stomach?
Empty as a football.
And do you love life?
Not too active.
Anything else bothering you?
Mm-hmm. Who are you?
Reading from top to bottom. Lisa. Carol. Fremont.
Is this the Lisa Fremont who never wears the same dress twice?
Only because it's expected of her. It's right off the Paris plane. You think it'll sell?
Well, that depends on the quote, you know.
And we're back.
So,
All right, time to talk about the newest film from Alex Garland. I would say one of Cory and I's favorite directors. Is that fair?
I think it's very fair. No, he's I mean, I'm really hoping he's a fucking liar about I hope he's a big old liar about this being his last film.
Did he say that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, the room that's what before the movie came out, he said this is going to be my last film. I'm done with directing. So, not writing. I don't think he specified with writing. So it would be a shame, but
it would be a shame, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, he started as a writer. So for people who don't know Alex Garland's work, his first film was he wrote the script for 28 Days Later, and then 5 years later wrote the script for Sunshine, which is a Danny Boyle movie that, to be fair, I do not love, but I think is like pretty revered among Danny Boyle fans. And then he 7 years later wrote and directed his first directorial film is obviously I think probably still his most famous is Ex Machina, followed by
I think Ex Machina is his biggest one. Yeah.
And then we have Men, and then now Civil War. Currently he is scheduled to write the script, not direct, 28 years later, which is, as far as I can tell, still like in production limbo. And then
actually, I don't think so. I think they hired actors like yesterday. So I think
cool.
I'm pretty positive. Yeah, I'm pretty positive they're still it's like just started like getting into into production.
I really like 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later as far as like those are like pretty classic horror films.
I need to finish. I thought I had a bad copy of 28 Days Later, but I think that's just how the film looks. So I should really go give it another.
that is just how that film looks.
Yes. Okay. Actually, yeah. 2 days ago, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes to star in 28 Days Later. So 28 years later.
Fire cast.
So
just that's fire cast. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe James Bond. Who fucking?
I really love Alex Garland. We have not yet said I think his best piece of work by a long shot for me, and that is the 2020 miniseries Devs, which is highly related to Civil War because essentially the entire cast, besides Allison Pill, I don't know what the story is there. I hope it's not Bad Blood. I hope it's just scheduling conflicts. But essentially the entire cast for Devs comes back for this new film, Civil War, which is quite different from Devs, although I would say every movie he's made is quite different from the one before it. Ex Machina, this like psychological sci-fi thriller. Annihilation, probably the closest to the work before it. It's also sci-fi, but more horror action related. Ends very weird.
Yes.
And we have
Annihilation. I still think about Annihilation a lot. That was a strange film.
I love Men. I fucking adore that movie. Although I would say again, weird ending in Men.
Never saw Men.
I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on it. I don't know.
I've been told. I think somebody drunkenly told me the entire plot of it once, and I remember saying to him, like, "Thank you for telling me that. I don't ever intend to watch it."
Really? Okay. What about the plot turned you off? I'm curious. Now that it's
the end
topic conversation. The end is brutal. The end is a brutal watch.
The end. I think.
And I still don't know how I feel about the ending of that movie, but I think Jesse Buckley and Rory Kinnear are like so fucking incredible. And
also, like, he's really good at horror because I sat down. I knew.
This is a horror movie. Civil War is a horror movie. Let's be very clear.
Civil War is a horror movie, but I'm saying Annihilation was like, I'm like, oh, Alex Garland, love that guy. Weird thing. I'm gonna sit down with this pizza to watch this good film, and I remember taking like 3 bites of my pizza.
Corey coming off of his 2012 Dread remake being like, I really hope this really bangs like Dread 2012, and then he gets served Annihilation.
Your boy thought he was going in for a good time. And your boy had a bad time.
It's true. The trailers for Annihilation, I remember, is like a full bait and switch. I think I definitely thought it was like women-led action movie where they go into the forest and kill sci-fi monsters, and
that's what I thought. That's what I thought it would be.
Not what that movie is.
That's not what it is.
That movie is about fighting with your own demons, literally.
Yes. Beautifully fucked up.
Yeah. But so let's talk about Civil War.
Florida Alliance. And the Western forces of Texas and California will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed.
You don't know what side they're fighting for.
Someone's trying to kill us. We are trying to kill them.
First and foremost, what are your thoughts on this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
I loved it, but I did not enjoy it. But I think that's kind of.
You really.
I think that's kind.
Warned me. You were like, this one's going to be a tough watch.
Yeah, I felt. I mean, okay. So when I worked for Al Jazeera, this was like kind of Cory backstory. My job was to find images in order to use in the news. And so what I was like exposed to was a lot of unfiltered images that kind of followed through a lot of unfortunate war zones and starvation. So I like my job was to use to scan through photos, and I had a lot of flashback to that when I was watching it because I think Garland has seen a lot of similar photos, and he's composed. I mean, he composed a lot of shots to be taken as photographs and a lot of things to stick with you.
There's some references to like real life world photography in this, for sure.
Exactly. So I think from that aspect, I was just so drawn back to that. Like, I did not enjoy that time of my life. I had a really bad time doing that job. And so I thought like kind of going back to that. And I mean, the whole point of the film is to be like, war is horrible. And we only experience through photos that we don't, and it feels so foreign that we don't actually able to recognize it. And I think what he does so intentionally is so well done is to give us these pictures of things that are currently happening, but just giving them the backdrop in America to make it feel so familiar that it kind of like in general just gave me such like a feeling of anxiety and dread that when I left the theater, I still couldn't feel like I couldn't breathe. So it did an amazing job as a film to do that.
Yeah. I think that's his intention. I don't think this movie.
I think the movie is not a fun ride. I think he did entirely intentionally what he wanted to do. I feel like I got the intention behind it.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to watch this film again? Absolutely not. But I thought that it did exactly what it wanted to do, and I thought it was amazing for doing that. And I hated I didn't hate every second of it, but I was not having I was like a lot of times I was just having a really bad vibe sometimes, but yeah. Honestly, I didn't really piece together those thoughts until we started talking right now. So I was like, that's why I was having weird feelings during it. Because it kind of felt like a bit, I don't know. I thought he made whoever the special effects person was for it too, definitely did a really good job of making everything feel very real.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with your assessment that the movie is like, I think does a pretty accurate representation of war photography, and then the fact that it is very much intentionally set in like a world that doesn't feel too different from our own, in that like we are 6 months away from possibly the sequel to the Donald Trump presidency. I don't think that this is obviously very intentional on Alex Garland's part, and he's clearly tapping into a lot of fears of his own in this movie.
I mean, also people were. I saw a lot of articles, people saying, I'm sorry to cut you up. People saying like this was like apolitical. I'm like, did we watch the same film?
No, it's not apolitical.
I was like saying like he's like got to be more like blunt with it. I'm like, are we watching the same? Did you guys?
I think
did we not hear the same exact monologue with the same speech patterns and words? And I'm like, you know exactly who the fuck this is gonna be.
I think it's apolitical in the way that like NPR is apolitical, in the way that like we live in a world where essentially the two sides of the political divide in America are. I think a lot of people do the thing where they're both like two sides are evil, but it's actually the case that one side is evil and the other side is
less evil.
Like, we're talking about like obviously this is the story of, and I think he very much intentionally does a thing that when we do eventually reach civil war in America is the fact that Texas and California are aligned in this movie. I think is again he's trying not to alienate one side or the other.
But I think the whole point of that is like, I think at least the smart, in my opinion, people are like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, that's how bad this world has gotten. Right. That California and Texas teamed up. And I mean, also like the entirety of the end sequence when we're going through DC, it's just like it's like no prisoners. There's no prisoners to be taken in this, and it's just like, and I mean, I was like wondering, I'm like, damn, we're not even gonna like hesitate. It's like they shot, like, I mean, shooting the president just like on the ground.
They shot that like her secretary, and then the decoy woman who is like, who the fuck knows who that is? They just they're killing
exactly.
Everybody. I mean, I think about that scene halfway through the movie where they come across the it's not even clear who is who.
It's with the guys. Oh wait, are we talking about the sniper rifle scene or the?
No, not the sniper rifle scene. Where the two militias basically are shooting at each other in the college.
I did look it up though. That was like, so apparently that's the Florida Alliance.
Yeah.
And like against like whoever the fuck. I only looked it up. I'm like, why the fuck would they
Florida
be wearing
versus
Hawaiian
the
shirts?
loyalist states, I think is their.
And part of me is like listen, this cartoony world. It's like that's the one joke I kind of found, like they're wearing Hawaiian shirts or whatever because they're the Florida
Alliance.
This
movie's actually like quite funny at times. I mean, shout out to Wagner Moura, who is having a blast in this movie as Joel, who is like he
goes through all of the emotions. I think
the man.
They're all like,
for sure. I mean, that's the point of the movie. These people,
but no, that guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah. For sure.
They're all. He's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I think that the success of this movie, like I loved this movie in a lot of ways. I do think it's a bit flawed in that the same way that a lot of these movies recently with this sort of tonality feel a bit flawed to me is that I think Garland has a lot to say. And maybe a lot of that is driven by fear and rage. And I think it's hard. It's really hard to write stories that like that. We talked about this, I can't remember the specific example, but we talked about this a lot where shows are like trying to make a point and they get lost in the point.
Yeah, I don't.
Where I think the plot, like I think the so let,
I agree.
We just jump to the end for a moment to talk about.
Sure. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
I think so. The end of this movie. And I guess we should say, we are spoiling Civil War. We should have done that up front. If you have not seen it or don't want anything spoiled, jump ahead. The timestamp for Shogun is going to be in the description.
I already spoiled the ending like 5 minutes ago. That it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's not super. That part's not super. I think this part of the ending is more of a spoiler.
You're right. You're right.
I think Kirsten Dunst's death, or Lee Smith, the character, is. Well, I guess I'll ask you first. What did you feel about that moment? It's very much telegraphed, literally.
Telegraphed as hell.
The first time that Kirsten Dunst meets Kaylee Spaney's character, she asks, "Would you shoot my death? If I died, would you shoot my death?" And Kirsten Dunst's character says, "Yes, of course." And so
like,
I think I knew from that moment that Lee Smith was going to die.
That scene, there was going to be that scene. That scene was going to happen. I didn't love how they did it though.
I think it's very emotional, but not necessarily well choreographed. I don't really understand why Spaney's character Jesse stands where she does. I don't.
Yeah,
Understand.
I think that's my thing about it. It felt so like I feel like there was a better way to do it. I feel like what they could have done is like someone maybe bangs the door open and she jumps in front of her.
Yeah.
And I think like instead of like her being like so I think the whole thing about her like Spaney's character, and I think she was my biggest annoyance about it, which is why I hate the younger generation because hey, look at this film. She is a fucking dumbass, and I get the whole naivety of things, but like she just has no. There is zero.
I didn't think she was a dumbass. I thought she was a lot like Joel, in that she has this like
she is,
lust
but like
for
she
it in a way that's
she has a lust for it,
distressing.
but I think a lust for it, but at the same time, it seems like Joel. I mean, obviously because he's a bit more used to it, at least seems like he has a sense of like smartness around it. But like from the get go, like
she's very careless.
She's super
the
careless.
Scene
I
where
think that's
the car scene where they jump between cars is like very much
the car. Yes,
supposed to be. These people are not afraid to die, or not necessarily not afraid to die, but are. I mean, you need to be a bit of a thrill seeker to want to drive into war zones and take photos of them. I think that's the point of these characters. That there's like Garland also has a lot to say about war photography. I thought about a lot during this movie while I was watching it about this movie from a few years ago called A Private War, which is another movie that I think is a bit flawed. But A Private War, the Matthew Heineman movie starring Rosamund Pike, who is playing a real-life war photographer, Mary Colvin, who is like legendary, shot a lot of conflicts in the Middle East in the, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm remembering my dates correctly. But like a lot of that movie is about the thing that Garland's tapping into here, the isolation, but also the sort of like the thing that is completely unnatural about war photography is like you need to run into this thing, this deadly site with no guns and just take photos. It is a thing that you have to like remove your humanity to do. And then Rosamund Pike's character in that movie is really struggling with like the substance abuse and alcoholism and sort of nearing the end of her tether in that film. And I think a lot of the Kelly Spaney's character, Jesse Cullen, is like the beginning of that. Is this like excitement, but sort of like thrill seeking. And when she and Joel are looking at each other during the raid of DC and they're like both smiling and laughing, I found that scene one of the more upsetting
haunting
parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It's really haunting. It's very unnerving.
Yeah, and I mean I think that's like why Kirsten Dunst's character and like that scene. I mean I really did like her character because in that scene she's terrified because her entire like. I
didn't really get that either.
So here's my interpretation of things. Like I think when we introduced to her when she's like talking and they're taking before that little militia battle. I'm trying to pull up the actors' names real quick. Shit, I'm fucking up. But before the little militia battle, she's on the couch talking with oh my god, what the fuck is his name?
Stephen McKinley Henderson.
Yeah, Sammy, the character Sammy. She's kind of talking about it being like the whole reason that was her. Why she wanted to be a war photographer. And I think like the reason that like she says this to about it, besides like the what in her mind, why she was doing it was the whole like I'm trying to prevent things from happening. That's like her like character being like I want to take pictures.
For it to come home is like
yeah. And like when Sammy dies, and I think her biggest character change, like it was a silent moment when she deletes the photo of Sammy.
Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of at least her character being like finally allowing the empathy to sink in. Kind of vibe and like losing that feeling of
I read that sorry go ahead
and like I'm sorry like and like losing that whole like disconnect that she felt like she probably had like to the other things like she feels like she's finally like in the war rather than being like an observer of it. And so at least to me I took it as like she lost that aspect of being away from it, and once she allowed herself to be in the moment it scared the fuck out of her. And I think like she snapped back into it because of one of those things where being like, it's someone's got to take a photo of this kind of vibe, I think. And that was kind of her like hesitation and fear during it. But that was my interpretation of why she started like kind of freaking out really. Because I think she like realized that she doesn't have the thrill to do it. In her mind, she wasn't a thrill seeker in her mind. And I think Joel and the girl were like very much like, this is what they enjoy this aspect of it. That's why they're doing it for that. And I don't think necessarily she had that same drive in her brain. And so when she lost that drive, she lost a lot of like, why am I doing this? This is terrifying. Like what the whole, at least that's why I thought she was having a breakdown. My interpretation of it.
I buy it. I read that scene with the photo differently, but
What you think?
Maybe I'm incorrect. I read it as like you talked about the conversation on the couch, and she's talking about like the reason I did this, reason I risked my life. We get those flashbacks to her in what appears to be some country in Africa of like literally photographing a guy being burned alive, or she's standing inches away from people being executed at gunpoint, taking photos of it. And she says to him, like you said, she's like, I did this so that this wouldn't. I would tell the world not to happen, not to let this happen, and then it is happening here. And then when she sees Sammy die, she's like, "This is maybe all this stuff I've done, all this life I've risked, all this life I've lost. These connections. I mean, it's no accident that she's like literally alone. She has no. We see that in the moment. One of the first things we see is her alone in her hotel room crying in the bath. Is like this person does not have friends or family around her really. I mean, Joel is like is as close.
Is it crazy?
As close as he ever has, but it's not really. Somebody that's a loved one of hers in this.
I mean,
way.
he doesn't hesitate when she dies. Like we don't even see him look down at her. He just like kind of keeps moving with them. Yeah.
But I think that I read that scene as her deleting the photo, realizing like that maybe this is all hopeless. It's like losing the will to continue doing this pursuit.
I would say the will to keep doing, but I think if it was hopeless, she would have kept the photo.
Yeah.
At least that's my interpretation of it. It'll be if it truly didn't matter, I think she would have deleted the photo. But I think the fact that she like chose to delete the photo was like kind of her being like, oh, like what the fuck am I doing in a sense?
Yeah,
that was my interpretation of it.
I'm actually I'm with you that I thought this movie was a tough watch at times, but I am really excited to see it again. I'm for this sort of reason. I want to unpack these characters. I will say though, I mean. The reason I think I don't think it was like perfect is that I was surprised when you told me. Now that you've told me or you've unpacked like what was distressing to you about the movie when you watched it, it makes more sense. I remember walking out of the film being like, well, I thought that was good and like actually pretty effective and especially like the very much intentional, whatever anybody might say, Trump parallel with Nick Offerman's president character is upsetting. I still go back to, and I think I texted you about this, is I think about that episode from the final season of Succession, the election episode. And that hour-long episode instilled like way more anxiety in me than I think I had during this movie. And that movie, there's no gunfire. It's just people sitting in boardrooms talking during a news broadcast of the elections. And I think that I was expecting that sort of tension, and I don't know if I don't know if it works in a movie like this to have that level of tension over this tension and violence and death, and then over the course of a 2-hour movie versus like this tight taut string in the middle of a relatively funny season of Succession. I think there's a difference between pacing and how that can work. So I'm not necessarily comparing the two, but I think I was walking into Civil War expecting to feel this that episode ended. Did you? I can't remember. Did you watch the season of Succession or
no?
Okay. I remember that episode ended, and I was like, "Shit, Donald Trump is going to be president again." And this was like last year. It was like a genuine terror during that episode, and I don't think I had that same reaction coming out of. I don't know what that says about the movie or me more. I don't know, but I
think at least to me, my big thing, and I was kind of wondering like what. And I still exactly don't know. I think like one of my biggest criticisms about the film is like I don't exactly know what the point of it was, or if there's a bigger point besides that war is bad.
I think that might be it, though. I think this might just be
an
anti-war film.
You know, and honestly, that's fine.
Or that's not even an anti-war film, but like an anti-division film. I mean, that scene with Jesse Plemons' character, who is uncredited as just such an amazing,
good.
Guy.
I have never been that scared in like for anything that I was in that also like 3 to 4 minutes.
Just don't say you're from I get it. He's probably gonna kill you, but let's take the risk. Let's name a state. Name a state that's not Hong Kong, Tony. Please,
Tony. Like he
didn't said
kill
Hong
Joel.
Kong, I was shocked. I was like, "What are you doing?"
The line delivery. The line delivery. What kind of American was just like, oh no, like because you know everything about that person. Right. And that one line of dialogue, but apparently he was just hanging around set actually, and the other guy who was supposed to do it couldn't.
I think that's why he's uncredited because I think he literally he can't be credited in this movie because he was probably just hanging out with his wife, which again,
No, yeah, that's-
Hollywood power couple Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst is quickly
just-
becoming my favorite celebrity couple. And I was just like, hey, I'll be this psychotic racist if you need me.
I got it. Now, listen, I'm just gotta get that in real quick. Don't worry about it. I played crazy a lot.
Yeah, I would say the
like-
error of saying Jesse Plemons is underappreciated is pretty much over. He's been in.
Well, I think underappreciated. He's been underutilized. I think that's a better word for him because I think he needs to be in. He needs something. Because I mean, I think he deserves something. Not needs it. He deserves something.
I say this: Civil War and Killers of the Flower Moon back to back, two movies that I really adored. Two, actually, to be honest, very similar tonal movies. But
Sure.
Both times he's like a pretty great part of the movie that I just wished there'd been more of. Although I will say, in Civil War, I would not say I wish there was more of that character.
No, I don't want any more. I think when he was gone, I was like, thank God he's gone. But at least in Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm like, when you were telling me, and I started reading the book, and I'm like, oh, I'd watch a miniseries about his character.
He's basically the main character of the book.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, if they made a miniseries, like an offshoot, just starring Jesse Plemons as that character, would love that. Would love that.
Offhand shout out to, if you guys have not seen I'm Thinking of Ending Things, one of my favorite Jesse Plemons performances, Charlie Kaufman movie from a few years ago. Unrelated to this, but I was just thinking about it. I really... It's tough because, like I said, I'm basically coming into Civil War off of the back of probably my two favorite Alex Garland things, Dev and Men. So it was like a high bar to cross. I love this movie. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was perfect. I will very much be going back.
No, it's not perfect.
I'm excited. I'm kind of excited. I'm happy. I'm sad to hear that his final film, if you believe him. But
another thing that we are sad about, and I will segue us away from Civil War, is the ending of FX's miniseries. And I hate saying that word, Shogun.
Sad's not the right word. I'm fully angry. I'm mad.
So it's funny reading the article because I think I didn't read all of it, but they were interviewing the couple who were the showrunners of it, and they were like, so you can do another one? They were like, we don't think so, and they were asking, I can't remember his name. Is it Hiroyuki Sanada? Is that his name?
Hiroyuki Sanada, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I'll do another one. He's like, I'll absolutely do another one, and I'm like, okay, he wants to do another one. Come on, give me more Toranaga.
No one's going to stop him. This is unacceptable. Peering into ladies' private quarters? It's not proper! Worse than that, it's vulgar! Unholy perversion!
腹を立てているのでございましょう。お国では女の顔を覗くことが不重宝な振る舞いなのだと。
ここは日の本じゃ! Am I the only man present who treasures the purity of a woman?
ご容赦くださいませ。日の本の風習に慣れていないのです。
No! Woman's virtue is our glory! A blight on us all! My God, the shame of it!
まるで風習が違っておりますゆえ、こちらの申すことがどうにも通じませず。
You, sir, are a silly little man! And your hair looks like the tail of a pony! なんだこの騒ぎは! 一同様ご一行を港までお送りせよと仰せだっただろうが通してやらぬかあ、上善様 Well, I hope you didn't mind the part about the pony.
Well, I do think, unfortunately, the way the show ended, I don't think another season makes sense. I just wish they'd I don't think Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo, the couple you're talking about, who were the showrunners, the creators of the show Shogun, which was, let's be very clear, fantastic.
Fantastic show.
Fantastic. I just think it could have been 4 seasons of television.
I don't know about that long, but I definitely feel like they could have extended it more. And I think I mentioned it beforehand. I'm in such a tough spot because I do love miniseries because I fucking, I just hate going on. And then at the end of 6 seasons at the expense, you learn that it fucking got canceled and you don't get a real fucking ending to it, which is kind of fucking annoying that you wasted that much time of your fucking life on something that you thought was done. But I do agree that there should be like at least 2
hold on.
seasons.
I'm sorry. I know we're running
about it.
long and we're not talking about The Expanse and all this stuff. Why did you watch The Expanse, Corey?
Because I think I was trying to itch that sci-fi feeling that I had from, what was I watching before that? It wasn't Silo, it was something else. Right before that. And I think I was trying to itch that same, like trying to scratch the same itch, and I just didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we talked about it on the show, and I think the last episode, you crushed that, because we talked about it last episode, and I was like, I don't like The Expanse. And then,
and the thing is, I fucking like the show. That's the problem with it is, like, I like the show, and then at the end, then I saw the last season, and there was 6 episodes, and I'm like, there's no way in hell they're covering everything, and they barely touched any of it. They barely touched any of it.
To be honest, I had not realized that it has been canceled. That's too bad.
I'm genuinely upset it got canceled.
I'm surprised that Amazon canceled it.
Bought it and then canceled it. Weird vibe, right? Fucking Bezos. But yeah, Shogun. But I think I do agree with you. I wish it was longer, and I do wish they'd spent more time, because I feel like they did like. A lot of things were condensed. A lot of things happened really quickly. I feel like they could have like done more and like built out more, but
it's a lot of time jumps too. And listen,
a lot of time jumps.
If this is the show they wanted to, if this is the story they wanted to tell, then I'm not gonna take that away from them. I think they did a great job. I just think there is a lot of there was a lot more to expand upon. I mean, we get all these characters that I think are really Ochiban no Kata, the mother of the air, is a fascinating character that it's around for not much of the show in the grand scheme of things. I was talking about before we started recording how I thought the church was going to be a huge part of the show going in. It's a big part in the first 2 episodes, and it's a big part in the last episodes, but in the middle it doesn't even really show up.
No.
I thought the stuff with the regents, the basically the Ishido and the other 4 members of the board trying to like bureaucrat their way around Toranaga was also really interesting, and I could have spent so much more time in this world, and we didn't. And if that's what they wanted, and the fact that the show was successful, so it's hard to be like, I wish they did this, because I think the show really works. But I remember we were talking about it after the first 3 episodes, that this felt a lot like what was great about Game of Thrones, is that you had all these rich characters and this rich world that I could have spent so much time in. I mean, that ending with Fuji and
Blackthorn.
Blackthorn is a great ending. But again, that character is like, we don't spend enough time with her to have this huge connection with her. Imagine if that's 4 seasons in.
That's true.
And we have a relationship with Fuji that we do with like fucking Cersei Lannister or the Stark kids. I think that this show was so well made. I mean, the action sequences are incredible. We get like not that many of them again, because we're only
but I think it's like such a fun idea for the show where like they have these like brief hints of action.
Yeah,
but then like that's not what
that there's not a big action sequence in it. Actually, I think that was such a cool ending. To be like, this guy basically.
He won before he even did anything.
Checkers. Yeah.
Exactly.
Although, let's be very clear, I'm no war tactician, but I don't care what the plan is. I guess I'm just not built for it. If the plan includes me watching my best friend kill himself in front of me, I won't be doing that plan. I'm sorry. It's
that plan, and then sending a young woman to her death.
to her death.
Like basically losing 2 of your most loyal people. Oh, and also relying on someone else to betray you.
Yeah. Although,
and also, don't forget again.
We do.
Don't also forget again. Burning the ship and then killing innocent villagers.
Well, the burning the ship part was not part of the larger plan. I think that's the thing that I liked about the Toranaga's character. That again, I just wish we could have spent more time exploring him. He's not a good guy.
No, he's not at all. Like as time goes on,
I think the show is well aware of that he's not a good guy.
Yeah. No, and I think that's such a good thing about the show is like where you're like, you believe he's like this very honorable person and like you're like the way that he presents it. But I think that's the entire point of the character where he's like, I'll tell you all these things about me, but my actions are very different. And I think that's such a fun way to do like a very morally gray character where like he keeps telling people like, I don't want to be Shogun, but he did want to be Shogun.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot, like, and I mean, like, and even they dropped that whole line at the very end where it's like Yabashiga's saying, like, when the old Shogun or the old Daimyo, whatever the guy's name, he was like, he was going to go to war with Toranaga, but there was like an omen and he didn't do it.
The earthquake.
And the same omen happened. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was like a previous conflict between the two of them.
It's not.
I didn't know that.
I think it's mentioned in passing once in the first few episodes, but it's not a big part of the show. Yeah, and it just feels like a major detail. It's
a major detail because it's also like he's like, why would that same guy ask him to basically take over for him? But it's like, yeah, I loved that whole final. I mean, probably my favorite scene of the show was in the last episode, where he's like telling Yabashiga like the whole plan.
Oh yeah,
and like how everything worked.
I actually thought that should have been. I think I loved the other two scenes. I just think they should have arranged it that was the final sequence. I was surprised that should have been the last scene. To be honest,
the last shot of him like looking over should have been like right when that was over. I'm like, that should have been like basically the end point of the plan. Like the plan is done. The plan is completed. It's been a hard fucking ride, but like he got what he wanted.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, I also you call him a morally great character. I think that's true in a sense, but I actually think his morals are very clear in that he says it to his vassals in the meeting where he's basically telling them that they have to sign to go die with him in Osaka, and he's saying like, you guys want to go fight a war, but what is our family in relation to Japan? Like it seems clear that Toranaga's one unifying motivation was the betterment of Japan, and like he just wanted a peaceful Japan, because that was the whole thing, is that the before the original Shogun passed away and his heir, who was a young child, wasn't ready to take over and split his power among these 5 regions. There was peace before then. And then the wars began once the power imbalance began. And I think he thinks that, for lack of a better phrase, like for the greater good, is that all these things are like trapping Blackthorn here by burning his ship and then literally saying he'll build his ship again and I'm going to burn it again. Like trapping him here is like he's sending Mariko to die, watching his best friend commit suicide. All these things is because he's singularly focused on the betterment of Japan. Whether that makes him a good person is a much more complex debate. I would argue it doesn't, but I think some people would say that that's the ultimate sacrifice is for your country. I don't think we agree, but
I don't agree, but
yeah,
it's like it's like the thing about it is like I get it. I think like everything about him, like I understand it. But the thing is like I'm still rooting for the fucking guy. That's the thing. Like he's like not the best dude, but at the same time it's also like those guys suck more. And I guess like also knowing about the Edo period afterwards is also like, yeah, technically it worked out. Like technically, listen, it's like, how fucking hard is it? 200 years of basically peace? Yeah. That shit's hard.
Well, peace in Japan. They were doing a lot of killing all over other places.
Yeah, but don't worry about it though. Like peace in Japan.
Yeah. No, I mean that is one of the things. Again, things that there's underlying stuff in the show that I think will be really interesting to focus on is that a lot of these guys, these samurai who are back in Osaka and Edo, and I think the small town was called like Itsu or something like that.
Something like that.
They were all veterans of a Korean War, a war like they were all talking about how they just come back from Korea, and these guys are like all bloodthirsty, and they're supposed to sit in meetings and talk about bureaucracy, and that's I think that juxtaposition is no more acutely observed than in Mariko's husband Toda Hirokatsu.
I gotta say though, that destruction of his entire character during that tea scene, I would feel so much worse if you didn't beat your wife.
I mean, he was a scumbag, but I was like, this is kind of nice.
I loved it. It was like, oh, this is good. Yes, destroy him more, please.
Yeah, I had this reaction. I was like, oh, this scene's kind of nice, but I was like, damn, I kind of annoyed they're just like letting this guy off the hook, and then they don't let him off the hook at all. I think the show is really beautifully written. My one complaint is his son sucked.
Oh, Toranaga's?
My apologies to the actor. That guy was not good. And when he fucking slipped and busted his head open, I burst out laughing. What a weird sequence. I'm sorry. That was so weird. And I don't think it needed, I don't get it. I didn't really, why did
I wonder, what if that was in the book though?
Probably.
I mean,
I never read the book.
I don't know why he had to die.
He had to die, but did he have to die like that?
I think in a way, it's supposed to like be some kind of like just kind of tragic accident in a way, like
so that his brother doesn't kill his son, I suppose.
Yeah, brother doesn't kill his son, and then his son doesn't kill the brother. It's like I think it's like that's kind of like it's like he had to die somehow, but like in a way that it's not gonna cause like outright warfare. Basically, like if his brother killed him, I think you have to go to war over that shit. But if his son dies in that way. And I think his brother's like, I'm not going to go to war with you over your stupid kid, really.
It was such a good bait and switch, too, because there was that moment before that scene where we thought, okay, so Toranaga has like a greater plan, and it turns out he did. But even then, we're like, oh, so this is his greater plan. And then as soon as I saw his son, I was like, oh, Toranaga.
Oh, no, there's no fucking way, yeah.
He didn't have any hand in this.
Also,
he would not have sent his dumbass son to go kill anybody.
Also, a character I thought was going to be like so much a more annoying piece of shit, Omi. I was surprised that, like, by the end of the show, I'm like, you know what? Not as big of a dick as I thought you were. Like, in the beginning, a little bit of a dickhead.
So much of the show is like, I mean, we see all this growth in these characters in what is relatively a small amount of time. Fucking Blackthorn speaks like pretty good Japanese by the end of the show. Yeah. And he's, I think one of the more underrated scenes in the show is when he realizes that he is like a man with no country now. I love that scene where he's like, he's not Japanese, but he's not English anymore either.
And I was worried about when the episode 10 started, you start with like a fake flash forward. You know, it's now we know it's fake, but like at the beginning, I'm like, wait, no, let's not do that. And
I didn't think it was supposed to be a flash forward. I thought because they cut.
I didn't know it was in his.
I thought it was like a dream, basically, it
is a dream.
Yeah,
it is. Like, it's but like that whole scene, like he's like realizing that like he's never going back home in a way when he's about to commit suicide, basically. No, that guy, he was acting his fucking ass off too.
Cosmo Jarvis is so good, man. I think he's
the screaming was just so like and also the scene broke my heart where he's sitting with was it Yuji or Fuji?
Fuji, yeah.
Yeah, Fuji, and they're sitting on the porch when it's raining, and they just like look, and like the way the shot's set up, it's just missing that to the right of it. I'm like, fucking hell, that's
it just says no translator. It's
no translator. It's like
Yeah, I mean, we're both just sort of raving about how great.
I'm just sad that it's gone, man. Like it left a place in my heart, and I'm like, I want more of this world, like really, or at least like the setting, or like just kind of like the production value was great too. Like I want more of this.
Yeah. It's I both sad and happy that we live in a world where Tokyo Vice got 2 seasons and Shogun got 1. I love Tokyo Vice. This is not a slight on Tokyo Vice, but I still remember when the 2nd season was announced. I was like, "Is what?"
No, I thought it was canceled. I saw a trailer. I'm like, it just seemed like a show that would have gotten canceled, and like nothing against it. It just, I was like, this is like, it seems expensive. They're shooting in Japan. Like it seems expensive. Another season, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one saving grace for my sanity is that like Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo can go, Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo can go do another show. Like whatever they make next, I'm gonna watch it. I think the show. I'm excited
to see what they do next. But looking at their interview, man, looks like they're just like hanging out on their farm in Hawaii raising chickens, and I'm like, damn, that sounds like a dope fucking life.
It's hard for me, a man who hates working, to be like, get your ass back to work. I get it, but also get your ass back to work.
Get your ass back. Get off your paradise farm and get back to fucking work.
I just quickly before we close out, I do want to shout out the directing for those last few episodes. Friedrich E.O. Toy did 9 and 10, Crimson Sky, and A Dream of Dream. I thought those were incredibly well made. Some of the best looking episodes of television I've seen in a while. He also did episode 4 and 5 earlier in the season. I thought that's the thing is I think the show was really beautifully well made too. That shot when we were talking about on the boat, the wide shot of that lake surrounded by the foggy mountains was
was fantastic. Yeah.
Anything else to say about Shogun before we close out?
No, man, I love that show. It's so sad that it's over. And I need to find something to fill that hole in my heart.
I was trying to think. That is what I wanted to close out with, but I just trying to think of a thing that is close to Shogun or something that's kind of like it. And that's the thing is I could not think of anything that really, if you're like craving Shogun, I don't know if I can help you.
I think it also speaks to how such a good setting just makes you want things more in that type of setting. Like that's just like when you tap things like that, it's just you want to go back there. I want to go back to that period, and I want to know more stories in that period with the same production value. Hell, you can even shoot it the fucking same. Yeah. Just take me back kind of vibe.
I did a quick Google just out of curiosity about just did shows like Shogun. I will not name the publication because they are trash. But they have 10 shows, and I'm just going to tell you right now, other than Game of Thrones, which we talked about a million times, and I was going to tell people to watch Game of Thrones. Every other show on here is bad and also not really anything like Shogun.
Well, fuck. You were building.
I know.
You were building it up.
Sorry.
You made it sound like there was going to be like one diamond in the rough, Che.
It's kind of. I mean, it is not the same thing. It's not the same type of show at all. But it also, if you got really into the actor who plays Ishido, Takahiro Hira, and you just love things set in Japan, which many people do, I do recommend Giri Haji. Like I said, it's not really anything like Shogun.
I thought you were going to say Monarch, and I'm like, no.
Is he in Monarch?
He's in Monarch, and so is, what's the name of the girl who died?
Mariko. I don't remember the actor's
Mariko.
name. Anasewa or something like that?
Listen, she's fantastic in this show. No one is good in that show. No one is good in that show. Yeah, and I was concerned. I was when I saw her trailer, I'm like, oh fuck, man. Then she started acting. I'm like, oh wait, she's good. She's good. It's not like it's not her.
She's walking out of the city and is like basically this like performative is not the right word because it makes it seem like she's being performed, but like she knows
she's going to die
to leave. Yeah, and it's like has to. The show's.
She knows she has to die. That's such like it's so fucked up. Like that's where she just knows that like she's on the way to her death.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I'm not a religious. Bring it back, guys. Bring it back for a second.
And I'm not a religious person, but goddamn, the whole like with the arms like before the I was like, damn, that's just that's smart. It's good. Well done. It's like good end for her character. It's like the best way she could go in. Technically, besides like she couldn't live with Blackthorn. That wasn't gonna happen. But like at least she got laid one last time.
I thought their relationship was in the show nicely framed. Them having sex and then immediately the husband coming back is like a good plot mechanic. I didn't believe at all that they would have liked each other. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think they liked each other.
Which again is a testament to the fact that we maybe should have had more of their developing relationship. It just kind of goes from like 0 to 100 and then back to 0 really quick.
I thought they were. I liked it. I thought
it was good. I'm just saying that. I don't know.
It was wild how much. The last note though, because I have to go after this. Yeah. Just the admittance from Toranaga. Like, why'd you keep him around? I think he's funny. And I'm like, you dickhead.
The thing is, it's such a good scene.
I would it's just like you jackass. Like he's like, yeah, he can fly a fleet, but also I think he's funny, and I'm like, you have marooned me in this country, refusing to leave. He's like, he's never gonna leave. I'm just gonna burn his ship again. I'm like, you're fucked up, dude.
Yeah. We both really love Shogun.
Yeah.
I mean, we loved all the stuff we talked about today. If you haven't seen Shogun, Monkey Man, The Sympathizer, or Civil War, all 3 of those 4 you can watch at home right now, and I highly recommend you do it if you haven't. And if you haven't seen Civil War, run to the theaters right now to go see it. Just a quick reminder before we let you guys go. Coming up, I think we'll do one more regular episode, but after that, we're going to do Godzilla 1998 for our Curse of the Rewatch, and then don't forget to pick up From Hell, the Alan Moore classic, so that we can talk about that in the coming weeks. Anything else for the people, Corey?
Nothing else from me.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.